Mr. Castor is a Marion County attorney and currently serves as the Director of WAR, W-A-R, that is the Withlacoochee Aquatic Restoration.
Thank you, Art. Can everybody hear me? And I'm not going to use that mic unless y'all can't hear me. Okay. If anybody can't hear me, put your hand up and I'll tell you to move closer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. Why am I here? Why am I talking to you about water? Well, I graduated from the University of Florida Law School in 1976, and I moved to Marion County and joined Buddy McKay's law firm. Before that, I was in the Corps of Engineers. I was an officer in the Corps of Engineers, so I have some background. After I joined Buddy's firm, I was already a member of Sierra Club, but I quickly joined Florida Defenders of the Environment. And they're the group, if you haven't heard of them, they stopped across Fort Large Canal, and they've been working with Sierra Club and others ever since then to undo all the harm that we've got from that. I've been involved in water resources from that time. But in 1983, Governor Graham appointed me to the St. John's Water Management District, and I was chair of the Aquila Basin Board on the St. John's Water Management District. I learned a lot more about water resources than I knew before that. And I've stayed in contact with the staff and the scientists at St. John's, so I'm pretty much up to speed on what's going on with water. Now I'm going to ask you a question before I go further. How many people here are opposed to AI? Okay, that's mostly. Let me just say that's typical of the bipartisan support I've seen across Central Florida when I lecture on this. I'm not against AI. I think it's necessary in the future, we're going to have it. But the way it is now, it is a disaster. It's the current state of AI that I'm against, not the concept. Because the experts I've talked to who are in the industry have told me it can be fixed if they'll just spend the money. Like a lot of things in our life. So folks like you standing up will force them to spend the money so that we can have a safer system. Now, what's the problem? Why are we opposed to AI centers at this point over water? Well, that's really pretty simple, and you'll help me out. I brought a little diagram for everybody, a little pictorial, which I like to use to help explain what the problem is. And if you look at the pictorial, you'll see how the wells that are permitted throughout Central Florida are depleting the aquifer. Now, the St. John's Water Management District will say, oh no, there's less rainfall. That's not true. Unfortunately for them, I did the research, and from the Florida Climate Center, Florida State University, the data from 1895 through 2025 shows there has been no significant depletion of rainwater in Central Florida. We are about where we've been since 1895. So to say, oh, well, the aquifer is depleted because lack of rainfall, that's just not true. What is the reason? The reason is that the St. John's has done a miserable job since I left of over-permitting wells. There's too much water being drawn out. They're not recycling water the way they should. They're not using water in a way that's as precious as we all know it is. Now, how do I document that? It's really pretty simple. Everybody here knows about Silver Springs, a jewel of Marion County. Well, when I first started at the St. John's Water Management District, the flow was 530 million gallons a day. What is it now, after drawing all the water out from excessive wells? It's down to 277 million gallons a day. That's a problem. What are we talking about? 250 million gallons a day have been lost to you, to our rivers, to our recreation. And that's not the only spring. Every single spring. You go to Silver Glen, Salt Spring, all the springs in this region are depleted. Now, another thing water management says that's not true is, well, there's a blockage on the river, so the water doesn't flow out of the Silver Springs the way it used to. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Silver Glen's depleted. There's no blockage there. It's right on the damn lake. The water goes right in. So that doesn't make sense. And if blockage was the problem, what's the simple solution? Take down the dam. The blockage is not vegetation. It's Kirkpatrick Dam. Now, that dam's coming down one day. I know that's happening. We've been 3 times where bipartisan legislation has been all the way to the governor's office to remove it, and he stopped it. But that's going to happen. But you don't have to spend the money to take it down. Just open the gates. Then there's no blockage. So if the water management district gets correct, then they ought to be saying open the gates. Well, why aren't they saying that? I won't even go there. So, this bipartisan support I'm talking about, we started out, when I first started talking about this, and I go to groups like this, I found it was Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. It wasn't a partisan issue. It's everybody who cares about their water resource. Well, today I found something very interesting in the news. Governor Greg Abbott, very conservative Republican, who's been in favor of AI centers, what did he say today? Data centers dug their own grave and deserve the backlash they're facing. And we're seeing that all over the country. What happened in Pennsylvania? Moratorium. What happened in New York? Moratorium. There's got to be moratoriums until they fix these data centers so they're not dangerous to us and depleting our aquifers. The aquifer is the lifeblood. I mean, you don't want to wake up one day and not be able to turn on your faucet and get any water out or flush the toilet. Well, wells are going down. People come to me and say, my well, it's dry. Well, wells shouldn't be dry. This is water-rich country. But only because of over-permitting. We can't let that continue. And an AI center, that's bad news. Generally speaking, the smaller the better. But all AI centers that are currently being built use excessive water no matter what they are. We cannot in Marion County afford any more depletion of our aquifer. For that alone, we should be standing up and saying, no AI centers now. Now, how do you do that? Well, part of it, you join organizations like Sierra, who've been in this battle since the 1800s, not this battle, but battling for the environment. Florida Defenders of the Environment, they've been around since 1971. They're a Florida group, they're fighting the battle. Join groups like that, have your voice heard, but when it comes to November, make sure you vote for people who want responsible AI, not all AI. And right now, I'm hearing politicians from both parties saying, like Governor Abbott did today, we got to stop now. Take a breath. Wait and see. Let them spend the money necessary to make these safe. But until then, no. Vote no. Agree? Yeah. We agree on that? Yep. Okay, now, any questions for me? I know that was quick, but I like to get things done and move on. So, anybody have a question for me about water resource?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned how much we're losing in water in the springs.
Yes.
And we don't have a data center now.
Yeah, we're losing water because they're over-permitting now to wells. If that diagram I gave you shows the wells, if you put too many wells in, you deplete your aquifer. So we're already in a critical situation now.
Where are most of those wells being placed?
All over the county. Most of them are agriculture, a lot of them are new development. And you can responsibly have development in agriculture by using the water wisely. If you just give people blanket permits, there's no reason for them to conserve water.
What about industrial parks?
Well, they use water as well, depending on the type. That's such a general statement. There's so many different kinds of industrial parks. But most water wells go to agriculture and development, and I'm talking about really residential development.
What about development parks?
I don't know what you mean by that.
What about the World Equestrian Center?
I think they're water conscious, but I haven't studied them. But everything I know about them, they're very serious about conservation. That's a good question. Let's go ask them.
And what about cattle production? The Adena Farm used a lot of water.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about agriculture.
Is it true that Nestle is trucking out truckloads of water to California from our aquifer?
There have been people stealing water from our aquifer as long as I've been in water management. And that won't stop unless we stop them. You've asked a very important question. Why do we have the crisis now? Everything we're talking about is why we can't have an AI center.
Absolutely.
Because we're already depleted.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, I have someone that lives out towards Silver Springs, and they say there's water trucks constantly, every single day, taking water from the Silver Springs area, from the aquifer. And this is commercial, this is bottled water companies.
Yes.
How come we're allowing so much of that?
I'm not allowing that.
No, but someone is.
Water Management District. I'm telling you, the culprit here is the Water Management District. It used to be they were protecting the water resource. When I was there, we were restoring the upper Ocklawaha, but we were protecting the water resource. Now, it's whatever you want, you get. And that's got to stop. And it's only going to stop if people stand up. When you hear things from the Water Management District, oh, we got so much less rainfall is why we're down 250 million gallons a day from Silver Springs. The rainfall records show that's not true. And I have a very good friend who was a hydrologist, well-schooled, intelligent hydrologist at the Water Management District. He briefed the new director on this problem, and 2 days later he was fired. Yes, sir, in the back.
Yeah, how many data centers do we have?
Should be just got to speak up a little bit.
How many data centers do we have here in Florida that are, and how long have they been taking the water?
In my experience, and I've been speaking primarily in Levy and Citrus counties and on the phone all over the state, every place I've been, people stood up like this and stopped them. So I'm not sure where they are. I know they're trying to put them in Palatka. They're trying to put them in South Florida. Trying to put them in here. They tried to put them in Citrus County, Levy County. Sierra Club blocked Levy. I helped block Citrus. They're being blocked everywhere I know about. I can't tell you where they are. I just know I don't want any.
Well, why are they using the water? Isn't there something else they could use, like antifreeze or something like that?
There are alternatives, and those are available, but you got to spend money. I keep going back to this. I'm not against AI. I said that at the beginning. I'm against irresponsible AI. And what we got now is irresponsible AI.
Can I interject for a second? So my best friend, I'm not interrupting, my best friend ran a data center for Oracle in Austin, Texas. Okay? He's for them, okay? But there's a good way to do it. The good way to do it is very expensive, and that, like he's saying, they don't want to do it now. The antifreeze that they use today, it's $200 a gallon. They don't want to do that. So they want to consume the water instead. They want, like any other business, they want to do it as cheap as they can so they can make as much profit as they can.
But they got a lot of money.
You start talking about data center, then when you're using antifreeze, where is the waste from the antifreeze?
My question
going?
right here is,
Yeah.
if there's a leak, you take those, how many millions of gallons, what are they going to do with it?
I think that
Well, they fix it.
to soften the terminology on responsible data centers is a little bit early also for everybody learning, because that's kind of gives like some ambiguity, like, okay, maybe, because then who defines what's safe? Because
They're not safe now, I can guarantee you that.
I know that part. No, I know for them. But, and they put out a lot of, they want to put out that, oh, this is all reclaimed water, calm down, everybody, but that's not for you, and that's not the full story. And the water that they do use also that gets recirculated is ruined and contaminated.
Yes.
So if there's who's using a responsible one anywhere so that we can model that? As
I
well?
have never found a responsible AI center, and I've talked to the guy who put in the AI centers in Virginia that are so infamous.
So that it's no. It's
Right
not
now,
like maybe.
there's
Right now,
nothing
it's
on the
no.
ground that I'm aware of or have even been told of. Yes, ma'am.
How many gallons of oil a data center use?
That's a variable. It depends on the size of the data center and what technology they use. When I first started looking at this, the minimum for a small data center was 100 million gallons a day. 100 million a day. Now, that's changed. They've lessened it somewhat. But until they get it down to they're not taking any more any more water out of our aquifer, I'm voting no. And I'm
You said it
supporting
right.
candidates who vote no.
It was money out of the aquifer, that's what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it, you said it right.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do we stop our county commissioners and city commissioners from saying yes to these?
Raise hell.
Because they say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Before we even get there to complain, their decisions are already made.
The same thing what I heard in Citrus County, and we stopped that. Dee Dee can tell you about it. We got a moratorium over there and stopped it because the public stood up.
Could I interject?
That's what you got to do. And now I got a distinguished person with a question. Tim,
So
stand up so I can hear you.
I had mentioned
He's
this
more
earlier
distinguished than us.
about water.
No, I just say that because I kind of tease you.
No, but how do you deal with the chips that they don't use water. I mean, they're not even using water anymore, they're using the gel, so water's not required. How do you deal with that?
They're not doing that anywhere, man. There's no place that's happening. They say that's theoretically possible, but even then,
Video just came out with it, so.
yeah, there's, you know, the problem with water is just one of the problems. What do you do if you take water out? What do you do with the waste you now are creating? Where does that go? I just read an article about how somebody's city's entire water system was significantly degraded by a center they claimed they were using recycled water, and they put that into the water system, and the city has no water now. So, I mean, I don't think there's a viable alternative now. But you and I agree, there will be one day.
I mean, there's now.
Yeah.
The video came out with that, and other people are following their lead.
Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce.
But we can't have them now. Yes, ma'am.
What city that was?
I don't remember. You know, I get so much information from so many sources, and I picked up the thing on Governor Abbott because I thought that was so important, but I can't remember that city.
That's okay.
But I think if you Google it, you'll find it. Yes, ma'am.
She wanted to say something.
Oh. Well, I'm done, man. I'm gonna sit down.
No.
I just wanted to add on to his question, what you can do. I was asleep as a citizen in Citrus County. I didn't do any of this. I woke up and I found out that we're in the midst of a data center fight, just like you all were. What you can do right now, before it's too late, is go make an appointment with the commissioners, meet with them one-on-one, find out how they feel about data centers right now, because what happens is
They lie.
once they are in the midst of a data center fight, then they have what is called quasi-judicial, which means they can't speak to you anymore about anything. So right now is the time that you go in and keep pressing them, keep meeting with them, educate yourself about what can be done safely for your community. They're gonna tell you what they're gonna tell you, but you can tell.
We had at one meeting, 2 overflow rooms. We had over two overflow rooms at our BOCC meeting. The main room was completely full, and people just completely went up and talked to them, just slammed them and slammed them and slammed them and gave them the information, did their research, et cetera, et cetera. So they were at a point where they had to do something about it because nobody wanted it. We even had the Hernando Old School House, over 200 people crammed into that room to hear us talk and other people talk too, including, I wish Doug was here. He's the guy that built data centers on 6 continents and knows more about these than anybody else. And Doug right now is in the process of going around and closing some of these data centers around the country. But I wish he was here, along with, I'm glad Michael's here. But
So, on what John said, the other thing that you can do, grow this group that you have here, grow the community. Because when the optics are that you've got 200 people in that BOCC or PDC meeting, and the newspaper's there, they're gonna listen. They have to. When they see that many people with the opposite reaction of them, wanting a data center, if they don't, but you just have to grow your community like we did. It's work, but it's going to be worth it. Absolutely.
Take advantage of your social media. Literally bombard your county board with your thoughts on data centers or your concerns about it. Ask your neighbors to do the same thing. We had literally hundreds upon hundreds of emails that were sent to our board members in Citrus County, and they got to the point where we said, I can't read them all, there's just too many of them. But this is how you inform them of where you are at and what your feelings are. Take advantage of emails, letter writing, social media. Get out there and get as many people as you possibly can involved in your crusade.
And I'd say one more thing. Let's not make this the last meeting. Let's make this the first meeting. I'd like to see this place jammed up and people standing outside. And I think if you get the word out, your neighbors and friends, they're going to do just like they did over in Citrus County. They're going to be an outpouring of we've got to protect our water resource. Of course, you're going to hear about the other problems next. I'm really done, so I turn it over to John.
Okay, John. John Ray is the next speaker.
Can't hear you.
excuse me?
Hold that for me. Okay, so our next speaker is John Ray,
He is U.S. Coast Guard Search and Rescue Cost Plane, U.S. Air Force Major, Florida Department of Transportation Fleet Manager, has 3 degrees, including an MBA, and was very integral in the Citrus County fight, having that proposal withdrawn. So, John, you're going to speak on noise?
Correct, yeah, noise.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, AI data center operations come with a high cost, and that cost is noise pollution. For half a century, U.S. agencies such as the EPA have deemed noise pollution a growing danger to the health and welfare of the nation's population. Noise ranks second only to air pollution as the environmental exposure most harmful to public health. Data center noise pollution impacts surrounding communities and wildlife for miles. Construction of these facilities also contributes to the noise pollution, as it can take years to build due to the size of the facility and its specific design. Urban sprawl, industrial expansion, and deforestation destroy natural carbon absorption reservoirs while removing natural sound barriers. To reduce noise pollution as much as possible, people are wearing earplugs or investing in soundproofing installation. Data center noise is primarily generated by massive 24/7 cooling and power systems, generators, etc. They simply don't shut down, they hum from cooling systems. Rumbling of diesel engines or turbine backup generators and whirring fans can be heard for miles. It is constant. It never stops. This creates a direct assault on the health of residents. Sound behaves differently across frequencies. Our ears and bodies don't perceive all frequencies the same. Very low and high pitches can be damaging to our ears, while sounding relatively quiet to us. The largest generators run closer to 100 dBA. That's a measurement. Usually multiple generators run at the same time, increasing the decibel level. dBA, which is called a weighted decibel, is a way of measuring sound that mimics how the human ear perceives it. Low frequencies, DBC, which stands for decibels relative to carrier, this sound travels farther and penetrates buildings more than high frequencies. The low frequency hum can travel for miles. Neither trees nor buildings stop this type of sound. Humans cannot hear these DBC low frequencies because 100 hertz as well as mid-range frequencies. Low frequency data center noise that exceeds just one of the 9 octave bands can make life miserable for area residents through DBA and DBC limits are met. Low frequency noise does not lose energy quickly and can remain perceptible as vibration and pressure up to 3 miles or further from the source with little attenuation. A particular type of sound, which is called infrasound, which is below 20 hertz, is entirely outside the DBC's meaningful sensitivity range. Infrasound is not audible, but is associated with vestibular disturbance, pressure sensations, anxiety, and fatigue. The World Health Organization's environmental noise guidelines and peer-reviewed literature on wind turbine and industrial liquefied natural gas turbines document infrasound from these generators. These are sounds we feel. The human body interprets sound as a threat. One study out of North Carolina said DBC noise contributed substantially to increased rates of dementia, 27%, strokes, and heart attacks. A Harvard medical study reported that the negative effects of noise pollution will travel far beyond the perimeter of a data center, causing hearing loss, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, the release of stress hormones, which is scientifically linked to sleep disruption, stress, mental health, and cognition problems, memory impairment, attenuation deficits, childhood learning delays, low birth rates, and even contribute to the growing problem of dementia. Noise pollution has also been linked with an increased mental health concerns such as stress-related disorders and increased annoyance, particularly in sensitive individuals. Children and seniors deserve special consideration. Research on chronic environmental noise has linked exposure to reduced concentration, cognition problems, memory impairment, attention deficits, and childhood learning delays. Studies have found that children exposed to chronic noise environments, as defined by the US EPA, above 55 dBA, exhibit poor school performance, increased stress, behavioral issues, and lower learning comprehension. This constant noise could potentially also impact their long-term health outcomes. Data center lot line sound measurements do not translate directly to interior residential noise levels, which depend on home construction, window quality, and wall mass. Studies of industrial low-frequency noise consistently show that standard construction provides minimal attenuation at low frequencies. There are no cumulative exposure standards that measure the cumulative 24/7 chronic exposure effects on residents living near the data center boundary. A one-time lot line DBC reading that never drops over years of continuous operation is a qualitatively different health exposure than intermittent industrial noise. Fence line monitoring requires 72-hour baseline noise studies, annual evaluations, and calibrated meter data. In addition, there is some indication that these electromagnetic frequencies affect the operation of pacemakers. The constant hum of data centers drives away wildlife and interferes with natural species functions such as reproduction and migration patterns. Data centers have direct and harmful effects on local wildlife. Large-scale land zoning conversions alter local ecosystems and established environments. To quote a Loudoun County, Virginia resident, "There are no birds around here anymore." And finally, mandating noise requirements the county cannot enforce creates a false sense of protection. There just aren't enough people to go around and do this for these big centers. Anyway, that's all I have. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do any companies or corporations or people already have anything on the books that they want to build here in Marion County?
I haven't heard anything there.
I know there's one application, there's one landowner who wants to put a AI center on his property, and they're talking to him. I can't tell you more than that, but I can tell you, I know there's a landowner that the AI center is talking to about putting an AI center here in Marion County now.
In Ocala?
Marion County is all I know.
How big is the piece of property?
I couldn't hear that.
How big is the piece of property?
I really can't discuss the details of that. I got that as confidential information from a lawyer, and I can't really talk about it except to tell you what I've told you. I can't really say anything else about it. But I can guarantee you right now, there's a Marion County property owner who's talking to an AI center about putting an AI center in Marion County. That's all I can say about that.
Thank you.
You know, one thing that I think is pretty alarming because you've got wet and you have international show jumping here, and you have almost the biggest prize money here in the country, except for down in what do you call it? Wellington. So what are these international riders going to do? You think they're going to come here? And what about these people who invest into Marion County and they buy these farms and they've got $1 million horses, not just $1 million horse or $2 million horses. These horses are worth $7, $8, $9, $10 million. Have they ever taken that into consideration?
Obviously not, and what you realize, and I think everybody here does, is while most of us have no financial interest in the horse industry directly, we all benefit from the money that comes in that helps us on our property taxes and everything else, our restaurants, everything in Marion County is affected positively by the horse industry. That's my view. So I surely don't want to do anything to harm them.
To Mr. John, you mentioned that in your report that there were animals that had been disturbed, including reproduction. And I heard that there was a data center in Texas and that the cattle were producing stillborn. Do you have any factual knowledge about that?
You know, one of our biggest concerns in Citrus County is the one that there was 500 acres that in Holder that they had already approved for partially low and high industry. The other 800 acres that Deltona wanted to add to it, they wanted to change that agricultural into heavy industrial so that they could move a data center in. Well, a mile and a half also from this school, where we live, and where Holder is, there's 900 kids in 2 schools. So what I'm saying, and I'm reading here about what the learning and what it's going to do to kids with that constant noise and stuff. And this noise that these things, especially the infrasound, the low frequency stuff, this goes right through the aquifer. In Citrus County, because we are so fortunate the fact that we can replenish our water in that county so much quicker than a lot of other counties, it'll go right through this limestone. And it can go for miles and miles and miles. In that particular location, if you looked at Holder, it's up like this above all the surrounding area, so it's going to carry a lot further than even that. Yes, sir.
I've been hearing for the longest time now of all the bad things that data centers are bringing to us. What are some of the good things?
Well, the technology is inevitable. As the world turns to AI, we're in a big race with China on that, you know that.
Right.
That's the positive, is if you did it right, you've got to have that as part of going into the future. But you don't want to do it in a rush to destroy your community, so all I'm saying is do it right.
The biggest thing is tax revenue.
Yep.
Is what we're looking at. It's tax revenue. It's all about the money.
John?
I do have a question related to sound. Are there alternatives, better ways to build data centers that have reduced the DBH, the low frequency sound that's so disruptive?
Is anybody going to talk about electricity today?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
You know, look at the amount of electricity these things draw. I mean, it's unbelievable. And people like those in Loudoun County and other places, their electric bills have gone through the roof because they're having to pay for some of this stuff. We don't have here in Duke Energy, we don't have a nuclear plant here anymore. So they're going to have to generate a ton of electricity, and they already are throughout the country.
That raises a major point. The 3 big things against the present technology are water, noise pollution, and power. There's 3. It's not one thing. I just talked about the water. That's bad enough. John talks about the noise. That maybe in some ways is worse. And then you talk about a power drain. You know, you put those 3 together, and AI centers right now, as far as I'm concerned, that's insane to do that.
John?
Yes.
We have a gentleman here.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually not a question. I just want to thank 2 of our newly appointed commissioners for showing up here tonight. I don't know where they stand on data centers or not, but my crew meetings in Parkville, we appreciate those of y'all. Obviously, where you're going with it. So anyway, everybody, there you go. There's 2 of you want to talk to them, and both those guys are fantastic people, and they'll talk to you about anything. Like I said, I don't know which way they're going with it, but I just want to recognize the group being here.
Well, can you raise your hand and stand up? Can you raise your hand and stand up?
My name is Jeff, and this is Mike Creamy. I'm the new elected commissioner for District 4, and he's the new elected commissioner for District 4.
Would you like to express your opinion on this?
Since we've been elected, we are covered under the Sunshine Law and cannot openly discuss with both of us in the room But we will be more than glad to talk outside, one-on-one. We just can't talk in front of each other to.
Make an appointment, go see him.
Or why don't one of you step out? Someone go get pizza.
I didn't hear your name, sorry.
I'm Jeff Barristow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian has one more question, and then we're going to move on to our next speaker.
You know, we have several people in this room who are land planners who are going to be considering regulations in this county. I'm curious about, in your experience, what type of regulations should be put in place to protect the general health and welfare of residents?
Well, what we do. Michael and Anna, which does it here?
Pass it to me, guys.
Can you all hear me? Oh, wow, that's loud. Hey guys, so Michael Hill, I'm a land planner. I work for a local government here in Florida, and I'm also a private consultant on the side. So one thing,
Citrus County.
yeah, I'm the one who helped Citrus County on the Holder application. We got it denied. It was a great thing. Let me tell you guys something, okay? And Brian, I'm going to answer this question in this spiel. If you guys are upset about how the direction of your county is going, listen to what this panel says. Haggle your commissioners. Be respectful. Don't be a Karen, but haggle them. Because, let me explain something, okay? If you as the people on the ground, you guys have all of the power in these plights, okay? Because you guys sway political opinion. Like I said, if your constituents are pissed off and they don't want data centers here, you can go and hit their mailboxes, you can hit their emails and tell them all day you don't want data centers. But, let me explain something. If you do not speak their language in the land development regulations or the comprehensive plan, you are not giving them the legal security to deny these applications. You cannot deny a zoning application or a development for a data center based on emotions. You must bring what the state calls competent substantial evidence, okay? So, when it comes to regulations, again, like I said, the biggest issue in Florida planning is, and I'm gonna say it, is Senate Bill 180. It's an absolute nightmare. I don't know who wrote that, but the guy must have been drunk, whatever. That basically says that you cannot update your land development code if you were in an emergency disaster declaration for a minimum of 2 years after that disaster declaration has ended. Now, here's the caveat that we have discovered. Technically, because data centers are not defined in most of the land development codes in Florida, they're technically prohibited right now. So, it's either you don't update your code and add them into your land development code, or you update them and you institute very strict and harsh guidelines. And from what I've seen, that's not a Senate Bill 180 violation, because with them not existing, they're at the highest level of restriction. So the biggest thing that we're working on is kind of just, the one thing I tell people is this. When you look at data centers, kind of look at your comp plan. Look at what zoning is out there the most and what zoning is out there the least. Generally, industrial is probably the least amount because, again, industrial carries very heavy, intense uses. So one thing that we have been trying to work in our communities in Florida is that if data centers are going to come to Florida, we want them only in heavy industrial areas and through very carefully crafted criteria. That's the biggest thing you're doing, because I will tell you all this right now. Like in Citrus County, I think industrial zoning is I think 1% or less of the entire land uses for the entire county. So if you institute a criteria where you're only allowed an industrial and you can't be within 5 miles of a school, this, and that, you've practically reduced the availability of land for data centers by 90%. Because if you outright ban them, your county could very well be sued. So I tell all of you this. Read your land development code, read your comp plans, and just be respectful to your leaders. Because once you speak their language, they're going to know you're serious.
Questions? Well, the state of New York and the state of Pennsylvania just banned that. Are they being sued?
I don't know, honestly, because here's what I can tell you. The state laws in Florida are different than in Pennsylvania and New York, because here's one. In Florida, we have the Burt-Harris Act, which if you read the Burt-Harris Act, it essentially basically says that, like, if you do a full ban of something, you're committing what they call a taking, which is basically where you're violating somebody's private property rights. Again, I don't know the planning laws in Pennsylvania and New York, but I can tell you in Florida, it's very difficult to do an outright ban.
Okay, so the bans, I believe New York put in, is just, it's a temporary for a period of year, just study the situation.
Yeah,
so that the counties and the cities can figure out.
Yeah, that's what we call a moratorium. So generally, guys in planning, if there's a new use or a new trend, most of the time your local communities will issue a moratorium, and then they'll take that year to develop criteria.
So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a moratorium.
I'm going to tell you all right now, do a moratorium, and listen, something else, another tactic that I have seen in Citrus County, and it is working. Okay, listen, your county staff handles a lot for you guys. They basically keep this community running forward. Be nice to them. And matter of fact, if you guys want to help them in crafting good criteria for their data center ordinances, give them as much information as possible. If you guys find research and studies that are peer-reviewed and that they're considered like what you call primary and secondary sources, send it to your county staff, send it to your planning director, send it to your county attorney, send it to your county administrator. Because by you collecting that data, you're making their job a lot easier, and I'm going to tell you, they're going to know who you are, they're going to know that, okay, these people are very involved in the process. Okay, before we send out the ordinance, we're going to send a copy to you guys so you all can look at it and rip it apart, and then we'll go back to the drawing board, or we'll approve it. Question?
So I'm confused at what data they need to receive if the data is already there, that the water usage is atrocious and that we're already in an actual years-long aquifer deficit, not like rain by the end of the year.
I kid you not. Let me explain that, okay?
It's already there.
Yeah, send it to them, because I'm going to tell you right now, most of them probably believe it, but here's the thing. If they go to the county administrator and say, well, we want to do this here, and they have nothing to back or support their argument, they're going to get shut down. They're going to say, no, you sound ridiculous, I don't want to hear it, blah, 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 get it out of here, you're going to get the county sued. But if we bring the information, and on top of it, as you're haggling them and saying, no, we don't, the community's pissed, they don't want data centers, like the county administrator is going to, you're going to force his hand at that point. Or the county commission, you're going to force their hand at that point. That's why, you guys need, that's what I say. Be respectful, be persistent, and bring the evidence. We all know it's out there, but I'm kid you not, sometimes as planners, we literally don't have a moment to just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to devote an hour and a half of my 8-hour workday to just researching data centers. Whereas if I can just pull somebody's email and look it up, or just put in the search bar data centers, and it brings up all the stuff, that's going to make my job a lot easier. I'm going to tell you right now, you're all volunteers. If you send them information on it, do it.
We're doing that. At least one of the commissioners, what we volunteered to do is be her staff. So we have
doesn't
direct.
go on the internet.
Yeah.
So we asked her if we can bring her information, we bring her hard copies and, do that.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next speaker, and that is Karen Baldwin. And Karen is a concerned citizen and former teacher who has taught in both public and private schools in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida. She served as a librarian for the IU5, a regional educational service office in Pennsylvania, and in Florida has served as a curriculum director at private schools. Her interests lie in the human Brian, thank you. Her interests lie with the human aspect of impacts of data centers rather than technical aspects. And she has done exhaustive research related to various aspects of data centers since February of 2026. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, I'm going to start a petition tonight that we are going to start treating people with the name of Karen with respect.
I'm so sorry, Karen, I didn't think about that. Oh my God.
Okay, to add a little bit of personal comments here. 6 months ago, I was exactly where you were, or I should say. I had no idea what a data center was. I had not heard the term before. And it all came crashing down at a planning and development meeting when they mentioned the term data center. And that's when I started researching data centers. And this is the same thing that you can do on your own. Get out there, get the information, take it to heart. Be careful at the sites that you go to seeking information. I wouldn't rely too much on Facebook or maybe YouTube, but there are legitimate sites out there that have very valid information that you can use to develop your thoughts on data centers. Pardon me. With that said, I will continue. And to do that, everyone here in Marion County is going to be impacted by the development of a data center. You've already heard about the water, you've heard about the noise, you may hear about electricity, but what you won't hear that much about is the effect that a data center will have on the health of those living closest to it. And that's because there have been very few actual studies done on the long-term health effects of proximity to a data center. So let's get right to it. Data centers are air polluters. They run 24/7 on electricity that is overwhelmingly generated by fossil fuels, like natural gas and coal. More and more data centers are using generators on site rather than relying totally on an aging electrical grid. These generators give off pollutants like nitrous oxides, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, and methane. A 2024 Caltech study estimated that by 2028, data centers could contribute to over 600,000 new asthma cases a year and potentially 1,300 premature deaths. Data centers require backup generators, usually powered to kick in when power goes down, and these backup generators run for usually very short periods of time during testing or during emergencies when they release fine particulate matter. These particles are 30 times smaller than the width of a human hair. And because they're smallest, they go deep into the lungs. They can cause respiratory infections, lung damage, and even death. These tiny particles can pass into the bloodstream, the brain, and other systems. They can alter DNA and even cause brain shrinkage, leading to dementia. These tiny particles are something that they call non-threshold pollutants. And this means that there is absolutely no safe level of exposure, even for short periods of time. I'm going to borrow a story from our data center expert who isn't here tonight, but he was working at a data center in Austin, Texas. And if you know anything about Texas, their grid system is notorious for having problems. And during a particular heat spell, local authorities asked the data center, if the data center could go off the grid because they were concerned that brownouts or blackouts would occur. The data center officials agreed to remove the data center from the grid and use its backup diesel generators to power the data center during the heat wave. At which point, our data center expert had to run down the street to the local elementary school and explain to them that there would be no outside recess for at least 2 to 3 days during the heat spell because of the noxious black diesel cloud produced by the data center's generators that would be hovering over the school. Data centers' air pollution does not stop at the property line. How far it travels depends on several factors, including the number of generators, wind speed and direction, whether the backup generators run continuously or only during testing. Depending on conditions, some air pollutants can travel much more than 25 miles. Data centers generate light pollution, particularly when built in previous dark rural areas. The issue is not simply that the facility, the data center, is bright. It's a continuous nighttime lighting can change the biological environment for people and wildlife. Human systems use the natural transition from daylight to darkness to regulate melatonin, sleep timing, body temperature, and other biological processes. Artificial light at night can interfere with that signal. That's why experts tell you to turn off the TV or the computer before you go to bed at night. Unlike a warehouse or a manufacturing plant that may have periods of darkness, data center security lighting remains illuminated every single night.
Artificial nighttime light can increase alertness and interfere with normal sleep-wake timing, leading to a lack of sleep, fatigue, and emotional and physical stress. Wildlife can be even more impacted by light pollution. Birds remain active later, experience reduced sleep, and alter migration behavior. Insects will circle the lights rather than forage normally and become exhausted and become easier prey. Artificial nighttime lighting can alter bat movement and feeding behavior, and many frogs, toads, and other amphibians are strongly dependent on nighttime environment clues. Artificial light can alter their movement, mating, feeding, and predator avoidance. Data centers create heat islands. Most of the electricity consumed by a data center eventually becomes heat. Ultimately, that heat is ejected into the atmosphere or another holding receptacle. Under the right atmospheric conditions, that heat can accumulate near the ground and raise temperatures in and around the facility. That excess heat, coupled with the hot and humid climate here in Florida, can affect nearly every human system. The effects of increased heat on the human body include heat exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration, cardiovascular stress, respiratory problems, sleep disruption, pregnancy complications, and even death. A study conducted by Cambridge University found surface temperatures increased by an average of 3.6 degrees after a data center became functional. In extreme cases, nearby temperatures were increased by almost 16 degrees. That degree of temperature change could alter growing cycles, change the wind, and even impact storms in the area. The impacts weren't limited to a data center's immediate surroundings, but could be felt by over 6 miles away. Think what that additional heat would mean to children out on a playground or your elderly neighbor out walking his dog. Wildlife also experience heat-related stress. Wild animals are adapted to particular temperature ranges. A data center's artificial heat source can change the microclimates surrounding forests, wetlands, streams, nesting areas, burrows, and feeding areas. Frogs and other amphibians depend heavily on environmental temperature and moisture. A warmer microenvironment can affect their body temperature, breeding, egg development, and tadpole survival. Heat transfer not only into the air but into the water as well can create increased stress for fish, aquatic insects, and other organisms. A warmer microclimate can change mosquito development, breeding cycles, and predator-prey relationships. Excuse me. Would you like some water? No, I'm fine, thank you. The increased heat may affect plant growth and water availability, further stressing the already stressed out bee population. A heat island does not simply stress humans and wildlife. It can change the entire ecological balance. Data centers create stormwater and chemical runoff, leading to water pollution. A large data center campus substantially increases impervious structures. Rainfall can run across roofs, parking areas, roads, and generator areas, and transport pollutants including oil and petroleum residues, cleaning chemicals, and corrosion control chemicals into nearby soil, wetlands, streams, ponds, groundwater, and floodplains. As drainage ultimately reaches our aquifer, private wells, or even local water treatment facilities, it can create a potential pathway to harm humans and wildlife health. Concern for human and wildlife health are not coming from data center developers and usually are not addressed by local officials. Concerns are coming from the residents who are or will be most impacted by data centers. The studies that I've referenced have been done on generalized symptoms and complaints rather than related directly to data centers themselves. If you remember nothing else from what I'm presenting tonight, remember this: the long-term health risks of proximity to a data center have yet to be determined. I'll leave you with
prompt. Our next speaker is Dee Dee Ray, and she worked for 20 years in dental management, but her claim to fame, as far as I'm concerned, is what she did in Citrus County and getting that data center off the books. So if you would please welcome her. She is an extremely effective community activist and organizer. Dee Dee Ray.
So I just want to start, some of the things that you all can do is, again, meet up with the commissioners, make appointments, sit down and talk to them about anything. Because I found, even after the data center application or the rezoning application was dropped, there are still community issues that we're fighting. Tomorrow we'll be speaking about, at the BOCC, we have a development that wants some zoning changes, and they want to bring in a 667 plus development home, what are we calling it? It's a 55 plus resort style living Del Webb. 667 homes. You know how many straws that are going into that aquifer? We can't do it. We just can't. So we're up there. We're going to speak against, the BOCC, and it's just fights that continue in your community. And the more you can get to know your commissioners, give them information, just do it. None of us have done this before. Leave your name, your email address, and your phone number with them. Get this growing, because this is what it's going to take, really. Go to every PDC and BOCC meeting. Learn. We go to every one of them. You learn so much. Email your commissioners and watch the BOCC meetings. Watch the Citrus County, because we're a few steps ahead of you guys. So your fight, our fight is your fight. So when you go see us go up against these, developers, you're going to see what we're going up as residents are talking about, what our issues are. Watch them, because your fight, it's the same fight, really. So I'm going to speak on taxes and jobs, or lack of. So the idea that billions of dollars in data center investments will benefit communities may sound appealing at first, but when we look closely and examine where that money is actually going, a much more troubling picture emerges. So the difference between private investment is not the same as public tax revenue. When we hear data center companies and county commissioners promoting billions in investment, we need to ask a very important question. Who's actually going to benefit from the investment? So those billions are not going in a public budget. They're not direct contributions to schools, roads, public safety, or other public infrastructure. These are the questions to be aware of. How much of that money will stay in our communities? How many permanent jobs will it create? How much tax revenue will it generate, and how much will be offset by incentives, infrastructure costs, utility demands, or other public expenses? So what these companies are really talking about is private investment for private profit. No guaranteed benefits to our communities, and many public officials tout that billions in investments will expand our local tax base and generate new tax revenue. What are tax abatements? A government agreement that can reduce, delay, or temporarily eliminate taxes that a company or property owner would otherwise owe. So here's a very concrete example in Ohio. According to WOSU Public Media, in 2024, Ohio's data center sales tax exemption cost the state approximately $555 million in foregone revenue, about 4 times the state's original estimate. In 2025, the cost jumped to approximately $1.6 billion, roughly 11 times the original forecast. And companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft often negotiate and receive property tax abatements, full sales tax exemptions, and even income tax revenue or credits. And in certain cases, tax benefits can be structured to continue for as long as 10, 20, and like Indiana, offers a data center sales tax exemption of up to 50 years. We need to get past the dangling carrot and beyond the promise of high-paying jobs, because we all know data centers are highly automated facilities, and once construction's complete, they typically require fewer workers to operate than the size of the investment might suggest. So according to research from the University of Michigan, Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy, data centers generally do not bring the high-paying jobs that are often promised to local communities. And the bottom line is simple. We should not measure the success of a data center project by the size of the private investment alone. We should measure it by the actual jobs created, actual tax revenue received, public costs incurred, and the long-term benefits delivered to the community. Can these tech giants answer those questions before building? So this is the question county officials should answer before approving a data center, not years after the project's built. If a community is being asked to host facilities worth millions or billions of dollars, are the public revenues generated by those facilities sufficient to fund the emergency services, infrastructure, and other public costs required to support them? And if you look under Florida Administrative Code Rule 12A-1.108, Florida does not require data centers to create or report jobs as a condition for receiving tax-exempt status. I didn't know that. That was news to me. The regulation is centered solely on infrastructure, energy use, and capital investment. And that matters because job creation is often presented as one of the major economic benefits of data center development. And shockingly, as early as this month, per Yahoo Tech, more than 170,000 tech jobs had reportedly been eliminated during the year, often citing artificial intelligence investments as a primary reason for restructuring. And this works out to roughly 800 to 900 jobs per day, depending on the period used. So that's why simply promising that data centers will create high-paying technology jobs is not enough. And therefore, the concern is not that Rule 12A-1.108 itself creates a surveillance state. The concern is that public tax policy is helping finance and accelerate the physical infrastructure of an AI ecosystem whose ultimate uses raise profound questions about privacy and civil liberties. If taxpayers are providing a financial incentive for this infrastructure, the public deserves more than promises of economic development. We deserve transparency about the benefits, the costs, the safeguards, and the uses that this infrastructure will ultimately support. Oracle founder Larry Ellison has publicly described a future in which AI could continuously analyze information from cameras, police body cameras, doorbells, vehicles, and other surveillance systems, lock cameras. He has also advocated unifying national data, including health and genomic information for AI analysis. And this regulation, therefore, is not just about attracting business, it's a financial enabler for the rise of digital authoritarianism and a dystopian nightmare where privacy is extinct. So there was one question that somebody asked Brian Donnelly on Facebook, and the question was, in areas where data centers have already been built, was the workforce in those areas already qualified to fill the position, or did the data centers have to recruit outside of the area? Well, the answer is yes. The answer is generally both. And in many areas, the existing local workforce was not sufficient by itself, especially for the skilled trades and specialized technical positions. And the pattern also differs substantially between the construction phase and the long-term operating workforce. So consequently, contractors often bring experienced tradespeople in from other counties, other parts of the state, or even other states, while simultaneously hiring and training local workers. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Repeat the number of that regulation again, 12A what?
It is 12A-1.108.
Got it, thanks.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
So what if they do pay property taxes?
I'm sorry?
What if they are offering to pay property taxes?
I think that there's different instances for different counties. You may have some data centers that don't want the incentives, or the tax abatements. So,
like one was saying about $10 billion, and they were going to pay about $155 million to the county. That would be a good thing, right?
it would be a good thing, but a lot of them are taking these tax abatements, and a lot of the states now, like Loudoun County, are actually.
I'm not worried about Loudoun County.
No, but I'm just saying that there are there are states that said, hey, we'll give you the tax incentives, right, the tax abatements, it's a good thing. Now they're regretting it, and they're thinking twice about it because of the amount that they're losing. So there could be instances where these data centers aren't taking the tax incentives.
But if they would have that Marion County and pay Marion County $155 million a year, I'm asking, would that be a good thing?
You'd have to ask Marion County on Citrus County.
Obviously it would.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it
more
would.
infrastructure.
Obviously it would, but you would have to weigh out, are they gonna pay for the, all of the inconvenience and the destruction, I feel is destruction during the build-out phase? Who's gonna cover the costs of those roads that, our roads in Citrus County are horrendous. So we're concerned, just with the build-out, who's gonna be responsible?
You can't fix everything with money. But
You know what, that goes,
to the environmental habitat.
that goes back to the negotiating behind the scenes. When NDAs are signed, we don't have a say-so in any of what you're talking about.
They train people to work in the data centers in the high schools. So what if they had probably 200 or 300 jobs, full-time jobs, paying $100,000 a year?
But high school, you're not going to train high schoolers to do these high-tech jobs.
You're going to teach them.
Yeah, but some of those jobs, let me just explain to you. That creates a situation where a community may have plenty of people who could work in construction, but not enough people with a particular experience needed for specialized jobs such as high voltage electrical work. These are not jobs that you can train a high school student. These are experienced workers. Industrial high-vac refrigeration, generators and backup power systems, controls automation, fiber optic installation, mechanical piping work, commissioning, specialized data center construction management. Most of the time they will bring in, even like he said, foreign workers. And not only that, some of these AI data centers are run remotely. They don't even need to have anybody in it.
But if they do, and they would.
But it's
They don't employ that.
that's in a perfect world, and it comes back again to the commissioners and those decision makers as to what type of deal. I'm sorry, go
Let me
ahead.
just speak for a second,
Okay.
and not interrupt you. So what if they had 2,200 jobs, construction jobs that built the data center? What if they had, 200-300 full-time jobs that paid $80,000 to $100,000 a year? And you had training programs that trained those workers to work in this data center. That would be good.
Of course that would be good.
And this is not just about money. This is about what's happening to our water, what's happening to our air, what's happening to our noise,
Our
what's happening to our
infrastructure,
power.
our environment.
You can bring all the money you want and bribe people into doing what you want them to do, but this is not a money issue. This is a much bigger issue than money.
They don't ever happen.
But I just read
They
how,
haven't happened yet, but the new.
but there's no guarantee that those $80,000 a year jobs are gonna stay.
They won't.
They won't.
Well, how are you gonna guarantee that?
Have you done any research?
How are you gonna guarantee that if that data center becomes defunct after 10 years? What happens to that person that's been relying on that 80,000? That's his career that he trained in. So I think what you have to say, that'd be great if all those things happen, but unfortunately, that is the issue that we're facing. It's not happening. But again, our concern in Citrus County is we don't have the money for infrastructure. We just don't. So unless they pay for it, but it doesn't sound like they're willing to do that. They're taking from our communities, our resources, our money. That's what we're seeing. So in a perfect world, I hope that works out for you. I really do.
Yeah, you don't want what you're talking about. Yeah, you want them to pay for things you're talking about there in Citrus County. But it doesn't sound like they're willing to do that.
We don't want it. We don't even want it, period. We don't want it, period. We don't even want to be faced with those issues. We just don't want it.
Thank you very much. We have a couple more questions if we can.
Yes, ma'am.
Kent was our former mayor, and he did a great job.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so if everybody doesn't recognize him, he was our former mayor. He did a great job. What I would like to say is in response to them paying all of the tax or the impact fees, there is no way that a data center can cover the amount of gigawatts of electricity that is going to have to be utilized and built for the infrastructure even to get it here. If I understand it correctly, on the books right now, we're basically kind of considering a moratorium because we do not have enough data and information to give guidelines on what would constitute a proper data center, if there is such a word, okay, proper.
That's the workshop they're trying to.
Proper. The second thing that has to happen here is that they can get in by virtue of a, not a zone change, but a variance. And that can come through an industrial park. And we already have 2 or 3 big parcels with large pieces of land that they're looking at.
I think you have the beginning of the steering committee right here.
Yes.
And you know, that's the thing. If it was a perfect world and they decided to pay for everything and, you know, repair everything, that's great, but it doesn't work that
But
way.
in addition to that, we're not answering the byproducts of the data center. And the byproducts are the noise pollution, the light pollution, and the loss of hearing and disease and future things that happen that we don't know anything about.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just gonna make more of a statement than a question. Data centers, yes, we can build them, and from a job perspective, but let's think of a context clues. AI is only going to get more advanced. So to your point, these data centers are eventually going to go remote. I'm not gonna say what industry I work in for my own security reasons, but they will be remote. So yes, you can have a lot of construction and people with special trades, and you have them, and you may have at preliminary, maybe the first 5 to 10 years, workers within the data center. But remember, AI is meant to progressively get better and better and better theoretically. If we look at the bigger long-term goals, they're going to be remote. That's inevitable. So to your point, there is no way that they're gonna be able to guarantee jobs for not even 10 years.
Especially if you have 800 to 900 tech jobs per day being lost. These are people that were trained technically to handle those positions. So they can't possibly guarantee it. And I know for certain that they are run remotely. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that we are talking about profits being private because the data companies, and by the way, these are not the ultimate users of the data centers. These are investors and speculators. They build these centers on spec and hoping that that somebody will rent the capacity from them. So we're not talking about the ultimate user of this bulldog. So the profit is private, but the damage is public.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
we have no mechanism to recover the damage done to us, the public.
And again, the best thing you can do, and we keep stressing this, is push for a moratorium and get in there and teach yourself everything about it. We did this for 18 hours when we got started. 18 hours.
And Citrus County is getting ready now for our first look at a really comprehensive plan that we're putting together to make it as difficult as possible. So we're just getting to the lab. Joanna, go ahead, dear.
This is something that we've been working on in Citrus County, literally writing up our own ordinance describing what a data center is and what the requirements would be relating to the megawatts, the amount of water, the noise pollution. In other words, what we've done is we have put together a sample, if you would, ordinance that would make the building of a data center in Citrus County as difficult as absolutely possible, hopefully with the thought that they wouldn't want to come to Citrus County to build a data center. And this is something that during the moratorium, our moratorium is in effect until the end of December of this coming year. And during that time, we had met with various board members. We had brought in computer experts, planning experts, and literally set down in writing, this is the ordinance that I think we need to have. And we literally drew things from ordinances from all over the country. We've drawn things in from Pennsylvania, from Virginia, from Minnesota, literally bringing in other people's ordinances and combining them with what we think would be the most difficult way of putting a data center in Citrus County. And I think that's what you need to be looking towards, is how do you want to set up a data center in your county?
And I think we get to first look at the ordinance September, October. So watch Citrus County. You guys might be able to benefit from something from the ordinances we're trying to set up. And I want to really give props to the No Data Center Citrus group. I've gone more political into other avenues, but Karen is part of the steering committee still, and they're the ones that are helping craft those ordinance suggestions. So, you know, we're just average citizens just doing the fight. You guys will too, and that's what it's going to take.
About 2 months ago, our next speaker, Sebastian Dadato, put on his own workshop. Many people in this room were on that boat, and we saw what was happening to our Silver Springs. I came here 17 years ago and watched the beauty of our Silver Springs and was totally appalled by the condition of our springs today. Our boats can hardly run anymore. We have statues covered in algae. We have so much damage to our aquifer in this county that is real, that is evident, and that is getting worse by the day. Sebastian is very passionate about our water. He is a boat captain, and he is here tonight to discuss what's happening in our springs.
Good evening, and thank you for everyone coming out today. Appreciate your time and effort. First off, I'd like to say I'm here on my own accord. I'm not representing Silver Springs or any of the other captains. Bruce didn't leave.
Yeah, I get to leave.
He had to leave. He pretty much hit all the numbers, and he is correct. So Silver River is flowing at historically half of what it used to flow before. Okay, it's from the 1930s up to 2010. We're at half, and I mention that every time I do one of my tours. Okay. My biggest, I guess I would say, my biggest aha moment was about 2 years ago. And we had a beautiful spring called the Bridal Chamber. It was about 4 feet wide, about 10 or 12 feet long. Actually took out wedding parties to be married on the Bridal Chamber. Okay, so close your eyes for a minute and think about being in a snow globe. That's what it looked like. 2 years ago, while I was working, I looked at it, I'm like, something's kind of weird going. Flows down a little bit. Worked the following weekend, it started closing up. A few weeks later, completely gone. It's gone, and it's not coming back. Okay. As Brian was saying, the best thing I'm going to do here today is not a bunch of numbers and just give you, like he said, boots on the ground type of thing to express to you what I'm seeing. The river is in big trouble. The river is in big trouble. Our aquifer is in huge trouble. So I called around, talked to some well drillers. Currently, we are, on average, 5 feet below normal on our wells. Okay, we are 16 inches below on rainfall. If you go to the park and look at all the watermarks, okay, on the seawall and on the deck, you'll see that we're still, even with all this rain, about a foot and a half below where we normally are. We are covered in algae. The statues are covered in algae. I'm going to hand out some pictures here in just a little bit. Our second spring that I'm concerned in was my second aha, was our first magnitude spring, the Blue Grotto. Another one, absolutely gorgeous. You pull in there and you can see all the limestone and shale popping out, all the water forcing it out. No longer there. It's doing nothing. Everything is sitting on the bottom. Florida snowstorm. Nothing. 2 spring heads are doing nothing. So I have a couple pictures here. Now the first one, these are recent pictures of some of the eelgrass. First one, and the second one. This is last week. Forgive me, I got a really old iPhone. I took this of the statues about a month ago. They were covered in algae. Look like I have dreadlocks. Freak out. So this past winter, until the rain falls, just the last month or so, This is how we were parking our boats in the back. So you can go ahead and pass it around. We had to jump off the boat to get on the dock. That's how low the water was. Now we're not doing that today. Now that we have that little bit of rainfall here, go ahead and pass it around. As Bruce was saying, one of the other things I want to show you this Saturday, I wish I had a way to view this on the big screen or something. I also do manatee tours as well. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And this was Saturday during my tour. This is Miss Divine, one of very famous manatees. Okay, she gave birth about 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, the calf died. She's over here at Bird Island eating out of the water on her side. That's actually not unusual. They'll eat anything green. They'll go up right on the canal and start munching down. So our biggest thing here is we have to protect the spring. We cannot lose this spring. I grew up going here, and I'm shocked every time I go to work to see what's going on here. There's so much algae floating around, I don't even know why they want to even consider swimming at that park. I can't see spending $2 million to go swimming. It'll take generations to pay that off. I'd rather see money going to fixing the park. That's my opinion. What can we do about it? I don't know. Bruce is right. Right now, yes, bottling companies are taking a lot of water, but the main problem is all this development. The best way to describe it is you're running your tub wide open and you got the drain open. It's never gonna fill, ever, okay? We have to be stewards to this. A healthy river means healthy birds, fish, alligators, and my favorite, manatees. We have to protect them. We are the stewards of this land. Data centers, they could be good, could be bad, I don't know. My best friend ran a data center in Austin. He likes them, if they're done correctly. Trade-off, is the tax money worth the trade-off on the environment? I don't know. I can tell you this, I asked him this one question. I said, we have a bunch of commercial buildings that are built out with nothing in them. They're empty. Couldn't they utilize those? He goes, no, it'll cost too much money to convert them. They're going to build brand new ones. It's cheaper that way. So my talk here is pretty short. That's pretty much it. But I did want to share something with you real quick that stuck with me as a child. It's going to be the corniest thing you'll ever hear tonight. And I want to say I was about, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old. I graduated from Goldfish, and I got my first dog. And as a kid, you love your dog, you take care of him. And I remember one day, my dad came home, and he said, how's school? Was everything going? Did you take care of your dog today? And I just looked at him before I could say anything. And this is in Italian. He goes, your dog can go a couple of days without food. Your dog has to have water every single day. And that's us. We have to have water every day. Okay, maybe a little dramatic, we're not dogs. That's what we have to do. I would also like to thank Mike, also our 2 new commissioners here, and Jeff, for coming to my presentation, which was presented by Florida Springs Institute. They have wonderful data, and they've done the studies at Silver River. Please take a look at their website, join them. They'll do a monthly meeting and presentation at their place in High Springs. Go take a look. Now, when I did my presentation, I invited many people, including all 5 commissioners. 2 of them said they're out of town. The other 3 completely ignored me and did not show up. And that's all I have to say about that.
Let me also bring this up to you for those who don't know. In the 2026 session, the Northeast Florida Rivers, Springs, and Community Investment Act, that's House Bill 981. It was overwhelmingly passed by the House, 104 to 6. The Senate killed it. bill's aim is to restore the natural flow of the Ocklawaha River. This goes all the way from the St. John's, when they started years ago, the Cross-Florida Barge Canal, and Nixon killed it in '71. Comes all the way across, and all this is connected all the way to the Withlacoochee, all the way to the Gulf. So get involved in this, especially your senators who voted against this, because it says right down here, the outdoor recreation and economic development in Marion and Putnam counties. And that's what this bill was going to help too, and restore a lot of what we're talking about right here. Okay?
What was the number again?
House bill was 981 in this session.
I'd also like to add, please take a moment, go to Silver Springs, go for a boat ride, go look for yourself. Talk to the captains, they'll tell you what's going on. It was so low that the rams floating at the dock were coming off the deck of the boat. We had to add a 4-inch block of wood. That's how low it was. Now it is up now. It's not that we can park the boats in the back, but as you saw in those pictures, that's how low it was. And there's algae floating all over the place, all over the water. Why would anyone want to swim there? I don't know. And here's the thing, if they do that, they're going to remove the gators. Well, FWC doesn't remove gators, they'll destroy them.
That's not right.
Yeah. And there's plenty of other places to go swim. Yes, you had a question.
Yeah, what was that? Florida Springs Institute? that you said?
Florida Springs Institute, yes. Yeah. Dr. Robert Knight, there's 3 folks there that are fantastic. Bill Hawthorne, environmental scientist, actually did a study at Silver Springs. He came, he's the one that did the presentation when I put that together back in June. He was there 4 or 5 months prior to my event. He got on the boat because I took everyone for a class on a boat ride, and he was shocked at how much worse it got in just a few months. So all those nutrients, all the chemicals that you're using for your lawn and everything, it's done. It's not just the quantity of water, it's the quality of water that we're getting now too. There's a lot of nitrates in our water. And your guys are drinking it. We're drinking it, we're all drinking it. I have people that say, well, I have city water. Well, it's not magic water. They get it from the same aquifer. It's the same aquifer. We are all in the same boat. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Anybody else have one last question over here?
I don't have a question, I just wanted to say something. Before these developers even get to our water and our electricity and our health, they get to our land first. And a lot of these developers, I'm not saying Mike knows any of this already, because he's not, been on the board. But I was told by people on the board that developers come in and they buy this land, this massive amounts of land, and they don't develop it right away. They rent it out. There's a thing, the cow loophole in our states, and they rent it out to people for their, animals to graze on. And then they don't develop it till years and years later. But they already have the property. So we're screwed once that happens. So I think that we need to start with stopping the developers from coming in and buying everything.
Then our commissioners and our zoning people have to stop saying, yes, oh, that's great, yeah. When we were all fighting wet, right, the place was packed, and everybody was interested, and the commissioners and the zoning board said, yeah, that's
Actually, that's a great segue into our next speaker.
While they're sitting on that land, they're paying taxes. They are. So they are not benefiting us at all. Right.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Michael Hill is our next and final speaker. Michael holds a bachelor's degree in history with a minor in urban and regional planning. 3.5 years practicing as an urban planner with local governments in Florida. He also is the principal of Torreya Design and Consulting, a private land use consulting firm out of Gainesville. certified as a Florida-friendly landscape professional, certified in green industries best management practices. And Michael has been supporting communities around the state as a consultant. And if you've heard about the big win in citrus recently, where Holder industrial rezoning was denied, where they were actually speculating for an end user, which was a data center, Michael served as an intervener during that quasi-judicial hearing, and that petition, or that application was pulled after a 9-hour meeting. So, thank you, Michael, go ahead.
I just want to say, being from Citrus County, if we did not have Michael, we wouldn't have been successful. That's the bottom line. If it wasn't for him, we would probably have the zoning that it needed for a hyperscale data center.
And tons of people that showed up at overflow
And
rooms.
tons. We can't stress that enough. Just grow your group.
I'll make this quick, okay? Now, to the lady, to what you said, you're absolutely correct. I'm going to tell all of you this. The battle is with water, but the line is at zoning. So I tell all of you this. Read your land development code, read your comprehensive plan. Specifically in the comprehensive plan, read your future land use element. That's the big one that's going to guide development. You're absolutely correct. Developers will buy land. They will hire consultants. They will hire subject matter experts. They will hire land use attorneys to get their projects moving. Okay? But, ready? Your goal is to speak their language. Planning and zoning is its own language, plain and simple. What I tell everyone is this: read your comp plans, read your policies, understand it. And then after that, when you're in the public hearing, bring it to their attention. Get ready to argue with their attorneys. Get ready to argue with their consultants. Tell them, well, you didn't meet this section of the code. Well, you didn't meet this section of the comp plan. And then you tell the PDC, they are not in full compliance with the criteria, they need to be denied. And at that point, guys, I'm going to tell all of you this. Your elected leaders are at a political litmus test, is what I call it. It's either approve the application and get sued. In 2024, Levy County was sued for approving a special exception of a mining application, and they did not fulfill their public notification guidelines within their special exception criteria. They lost. They had to pay the developer, they had to withdraw, they had to rescind the zoning approval, and, well, yeah, as like I said, they had to pay the developer's legal fees. Levy County lost, okay? If you bring enough evidence that the application that they're approving is not up to snuff in the criteria, you will tell them, if you approve this right now, you will be setting up the taxpayer for civil liability in a lawsuit. So, I tell everybody this: learn your comp plans, learn your land development codes. Because I'm going to tell you right now, like Dee Dee and John did, and Karen, they had the voices of the people on the ground, okay? They could get everybody to the events, they could get people riled up, okay? But that doesn't mean anything unless we have the comprehensive plan policies in front of us that said it's in violation of this, 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 and this. I told a lawyer, actually I told a land use attorney for Holder. He goes, so actually, you know, sir, you said that this application, actually, it said this, but you know, we have this. And I said, you know what, sir, you're absolutely correct. You know, I'll concede. That's a mistake. I made that mistake. And I told him, and I go, but it doesn't negate the fact that you're in violation of 8 other comp plan policies. So you want to speak about that? And that's why we won that day at Holder. So I tell all of you, okay? Your commissioners will listen to you. If you're mad and you don't want it, they will listen to you. But if you do not give them enough evidence within their own ordinances or their comprehensive plans to deny the application, they will get sued by the developer. As the same, if the commissioner approves the application and there is copious amounts of mistakes in their zoning application, the commissioners will also know that you, the people, will sue them too. So understand, guys, talk to your people in your community. Get everybody aware, because guess what? You guys are the ones who actually make the fight. At the end of the day, I'm a hired gun. That's all I am. I'm a hired gun and a consultant. I review the planning and zoning, and then I tell the people, okay, we have a fight here, or okay, we don't have a fight here. But it is you guys who move this movement forward. Without any of you talking to your neighbors, nothing is going to progress. So I tell you all this: read your zoning code, talk to your commissioners, read your future land use. Any questions?
You gotta play hardball. You gotta play hardball. You gotta, I mean, we even would go to the point of even hiring private investigators. I'm serious. You
Yeah.
gotta play hardball.
I'm sure the codes are all online, but can you sort of suggest to people the best way to get to them?
I kid you guys not. If you all have ever heard of a database called Municode, I kid you not. You go into Google, you search Municode, and then put the name of the community, whether it's Marion, City of Ocala, Gainesville, and it'll pull it up, Code of Ordinances. You can right there read it. And I kid you not, go in the same Google, search comprehensive plan, and then you put the local government, the comp plan will come up. You want to focus on the future land use element. That is the most important chapter in the comp plan. Yes, ma'am.
So you did a really great job in these other situations where you were able to, cancel basically the application for a data center. I think Marion County might be special. We have a couple lawsuits going on where they're asking for a moratorium, where they actually violated their own code. They're being sued, and the building is just going on and on and on. Or maybe it's Marion County.
Oh, no, it's not. Citrus County, which Dee and Karen will tell you, there's an illegal operating sand mine right now that is still moving product in trucks as we speak. And the county attorney said we're filing an injunction. They don't care. Some of these people have more money than God, and they'll play. They will tussle with you guys.
That's true.
I think the two entities I'm speaking of have more money than.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're speaking.
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you guys this. Let them do it. You know what I mean?
Can you tell us who you're speaking of?
I would suggest not to.
Any other questions?
Any
other questions?
But you can fight them. You can absolutely.
Mr. Donnelly.
Michael, you're a land use guy, you're a land planner. Our current commission is going to be sending to planning and zoning and to our LDRC, development review committees, for their suggestions on ordinances. We've heard tonight from Dee Dee and from Karen how they've been collecting different laws from around the country to make sure that when the ordinance is just short of a ban. I don't think our people in this county know what those regulations, ordinances, provisions, conditions are. How can we have a list of those things to give to our officials, to ask them to adopt some of these things to protect the public interest?
So the first two steps I would suggest to you, Brian, in this criteria is this. Come up with a definition to your land development code on what a data center is. Senate Bill 484 gave us the state's definition. Generally speaking, in planning, guys, the state is the bare minimum. Usually the local governments will tack on their own criteria. I would step, Brian, to your question. Develop a definition that the community wants to see in its land development code of what a data center is. And then at that point, you would take an amendment to either the use table of the districts, and you could say permitted, conditional, special exception. Those would be the first two stops. Like I said, the goal is you just have to you have to look more at your use table. Okay, what does your use table do? Okay, it says these are permitted in this, these are special exception, these are conditional. Once you kind of understand how it is, then you can start to develop. Now, most of your special exceptions, like for an example in Levy County where you're doing a sand mine, all special exceptions in Levy County require a criteria. It's the same thing in Citrus County. If you're doing a planned unit development or a PUD, you have to follow certain criteria. So that's what I would suggest to you guys. Now, look at some of your special exceptions, some of your restrictive criteria that are already in your codes, and find ways to mimic that on how that would work for a data center. That's a big thing, okay? So I would say just look at how other governments do it. Now let me tell you guys this. In North Florida, the land development codes up here are very easy to read. In South Florida, because South Florida is a lot ahead of us, there's a lot of criteria and architectural standards and stuff that you have to meet. So I would tell you guys this, just read some of your neighboring counties. Read Citrus County. Citrus County is great to read. It is very easy to read. Hope that answered everything. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Michael. Before we all head home, I think the rain has stopped. I wanted to ask Joanne from Sierra Club if she would come up for just a moment. What we've done is we've provided a QR code link that will allow you to make a public comment that will go directly to your decision makers here in Marion County. And I urge each one of you to take a picture of that before you leave. There's several posted. There's one on the door. And go ahead and use that vehicle to voice your opinion now. Also, I wanted to urge you to take your flyer and maybe grab an extra one and share it with a neighbor who couldn't come, or a family member, or maybe somebody at work. There is information on the back of the Sierra Club Toolkit brochure that has an invite for September 16th. We are actually going to have a follow-up to this meeting with more question and answers, and you would have an opportunity to register for that and also submit questions. And finally, I have some questions that you all left here that some of you wrote, and those questions will be deferred to that. I think we covered most of them, but if there's anybody that has an outstanding question right now that they wanted to ask, could you go ahead and do that now?
I just want to add something. If you all need any help with anything, organizing or anything, we're here for you. You can get our names from Laura, but we're here for you guys and anything that you need.
Missy?
I would like to say something because everyone has been sharing who they are, where they're from, and basically we're all here for the same fight. You have a Tallahassee sitting right in here in front of you, and she is here to learn even more and more and more and more about the data. That is Miss Amy. You could please vote for her. November, she'll make sure Tallahassee does what they're supposed to do, instead of our current Chad Johnson, who has thrown us under the bus in Levy County and everywhere else, that he's supposed to be protecting us and giving us the information that we need. She will fight for us. You want to stand? You want to stand up, Miss Amy?
I have one more question here from James.
Hello, my name is James Scott, and a question to the panelists. I know we had a fella earlier who was, I think, in favor of data centers, and I'm just curious, as those of us that are working in the community, I know having worked on development issues, often you have development interests, have regular looking folks join our meetings and kind of acting like us, and like there's tactics that our opponents are going to be utilizing in this effort. And I'm curious if you can give us any insight on how to navigate those tactics or what they might look like.
So listen, guys, I'm going to tell you all this right now. Remember, again, these developers are coming with consultants. They're coming with people with 40 years of experience in civil engineering. They're coming with land use attorneys, okay? And I will tell you, and Karen and Dee will back me on this. They are sneaky.
Very.
When Holder realized that their faith was coming to an end because of the growing opposition in Citrus County, at 4:17 p.m. on Wednesday before the public hearing, they filed for a continuance to the county commission. Okay? Because you know why? Because they were trying to kick the can down till after the election. And I'll never forget that. That, you know what? I said, okay, you want to play these slimy games? We got you, don't worry. So that email was leaked to the public, and let's just say it showed up into the county commission chambers, and the county commissioners were, wow, this is bad, and they denied that continuance. So understand this, guys. You have to speak their language, and you have to understand this. They're going to play dirty. It does not care, because you know what? There's money on the line for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We had a recent application where they were trying to develop an old DRI, which is Development of Regional Impact, and the same thing. It's like clockwork. 4:45 p.m. Wednesday before the public hearing. We want to file for a 60-day continuance. And then everybody saw it and was like, oh, okay, it's the same, just corrupt crap that's happening. Nobody showed up to the meeting. And then the attorney, I guess thinking that he won, said, okay, you know what, we don't need the continuance anymore. We're going to full steam ahead.
No backlash.
Yeah, so he thought that basically filing the 11th hour continuance was going to basically kill the opposition, but little did he know the fight was still coming. So understand this, guys. They will play dirty. Just be ready to play dirty also.
Constant.
No matter
what they say show up.
Yes,
I asked about a
constant.
question earlier about developing your own ordinance. There's a wonderful site on the internet that you can go to. It's called Georgia Data Center Ordinance Hub. It's out by Georgia Tech, and what they've done is collected ordinances from states all over the country. And you can pull up different ordinances that have been written, and you can kind of compare what they've done and whether or not it relates to what you want to do, and you can kind of put that together into your own ordinance. Again, it's Georgia Data Center Ordinance Hub.
Will they take information documented, like from Denmark, Sweden, New Zealand, these other countries, from the scientists, from what they experienced over there, blocking them, and they put a little bit more important sooner, than other places do? So can that information, if it's published, also be to put in front of people?
I'm just curious, do the commissioners have any questions? Can't talk about anything? Okay.